trouble
"Take
heading
me on
this
your
way.
horse," Apache
We
woman's
need to move off the
unbelievable
trail before
request.
dark.
The sun was high in the sky, beating down on the vast, open lands of the Southwest. The earth was dry, cracked in some places, and the air shimmered with heat. The desert was alive in its own quiet way. Small lizards darted across the sand, and the distant mountains stood like silent guardians over the land. In this seemingly harsh place lived Naeli, a young Apache woman whose life was deeply connected to the land and the traditions of her people. She had grown up listening to stories from her grandmother about the spirits of the earth and the importance of respecting the natural world. Those stories were not just tales, they were lessons that guided her every step, every decision, and every journey she took. That morning, Naeli had risen early, before the sun fully claimed the sky. She carried a small woven basket and a leather pouch filled with tools for gathering herbs and roots. Each plant she collected had a purpose. Some were for healing, others for cooking, and a few were for ceremonies that had been passed down for generations. As she walked, the soft crunch of sand under her feet and the faint rustling of dry leaves were the only sounds that accompanied her. She felt at peace in the solitude, yet always alert, aware that the desert could change in a heartbeat. A sudden shadow, the sound of distant hooves, or the approach of a stranger could alter everything. On that particular day, the desert's stillness was interrupted. From the horizon, a figure appeared, moving cautiously along a narrow trail that led toward the river. It was a man, his clothes dusty and worn from travel. He looked weary, and his eyes scanned the landscape as if he were searching for something, or someone. Naeli noticed him almost immediately. She had learned, from a very young age, how to observe without being seen, how to study without interfering. There was something different about this man. He did not move with the careless confidence of a traveler who knew the land well. He moved with uncertainty, as though he were unsure of where he belonged in the vast wilderness. Curiosity and caution intertwined within her. She considered whether she should approach him, remain hidden, or simply continue on her path. But before she could decide, the man stumbled over a small rock and nearly fell. Naeli, without thinking too much, stepped forward to steady him. "Are you all right?" she asked, her voice calm but strong, carrying clearly across the dry air. The man looked up, startled at first, then relieved. "Yes, thank you," he said. I think I got turned around. I've been traveling for hours," and he paused, searching for words, his gaze meeting hers. There was a hint of exhaustion in his eyes, but also a spark of something else, respect perhaps, or wonder. Naeli studied him for a moment, taking in his appearance. He was clearly not from her village or the surrounding area. His clothing was different from what travelers or traders from neighboring regions usually wore. He had a gentle way of speaking, a careful politeness that suggested he had been taught manners in a world far removed from the Apache way of life. And yet, despite the differences, Naeli sensed something familiar, an openness, a willingness to listen, and maybe even a kind heart. "Where are you going?" she asked, tilting her head slightly, her dark eyes steady. The man hesitated, then explained that he was seeking a route through the mountains to reach a small settlement on the other side of the desert. He had underestimated the terrain and overestimated his knowledge of the land. His horse had grown tired, and he had lost his way. Naeli nodded, listening carefully, but her mind was already thinking ahead. The desert was not forgiving, and the sun would only grow hotter as the day continued. If he continued alone, he could easily fall into serious trouble. Without fully realizing it, she found herself making a bold suggestion. "You will need help to reach your destination," she said. "I know this land. If you wish, I can guide you part of the way." The man looked at her, a mixture of surprise and hesitation crossing his face. He was a stranger, and the offer of help from a young woman he had just met was unexpected. He opened his mouth to protest, but Naeli continued, her voice calm yet insistent. "And," she added, "you may even let me ride on your horse." It will make the journey faster and we can avoid unnecessary risks." The man blinked, clearly taken aback. Naomi's request was unusual, almost unheard of. In his world, strangers rarely received such trust, and women even less so. Yet there was something in Naomi's gaze, in the way she stood firm and steady, that made him pause. He studied her for a long moment, weighing the possibilities. He saw not recklessness but determination, not foolishness but courage. And somehow he knew that accepting her offer might change the course of this day entirely. After a few moments of silence, he nodded slowly. "All right," he said finally. "If you are certain you can manage the ride, then I trust you." There was a mix of nervousness and admiration in his tone. Naomi smiled faintly, a subtle but confident gesture. She knew the horse well. Its temperament, its speed, its sensitivity to commands. She had observed it from a distance during her daily travels. Now she would have the chance to prove her skills, to show that courage and knowledge could overcome fear. She approached the horse carefully, her movements deliberate and respectful. The animal flicked its ears and stamped lightly, sensing her confidence. Naomi spoke softly to it, her voice gentle yet firm, and the horse responded with calm acceptance. She mounted with practiced ease, her body moving with the grace of someone accustomed to the land and its creatures. The man watched her, impressed by her composure and the natural harmony between her and the horse. As they set off together along the trail, the desert seemed to shift in a new way. The wind carried the scent of sage and dry earth, and the distant mountains glimmered with a golden hue. Naomi held the reins with a steady hand, guiding the horse through shallow streams and narrow paths. She explained to the man which areas were safe to cross and which were treacherous, pointing out small signs in the landscape that he might have missed entirely. The man listened intently, learning not just from her directions, but from the way she moved through the land as if it were an extension of herself. As the hours passed, a rhythm developed between them. Naomi and the man were two strangers, yet bound together by necessity, trust, and a shared journey. The quiet moments were filled with observation of the land, the sky, the animal life around them. Occasionally, Naomi would share small stories about her people, about how the river had shaped their village, about the spirits believed to live in the mountains. The man listened, fascinated, realizing that he was experiencing something far beyond the ordinary. He was witnessing a world he had never known, guided by someone who lived it every day. By the time the sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the desert, the traveler had come to understand why Naomi's request had seemed bold yet necessary. Riding together was not merely a matter of convenience, it was a matter of survival, of connection, and of trust. Naomi's courage had created a path forward, not just through the physical landscape, but through the uncertainties of meeting someone so different from herself. And in that moment, the traveler began to see that the day's events were more than chance. They were the start of an unforgettable journey, one that would teach him lessons he could not have learned elsewhere, lessons about bravery, trust, and the quiet power of understanding. Someone completely unlike himself. The desert, once simply a backdrop, now felt alive with possibility. Each rock, each gust of wind, each distant cry of a bird seemed to affirm that something extraordinary was unfolding. Naomi's request, so unusual at first, had become the catalyst for a story neither of them would ever forget. And though the journey had only just begun, the connection they had formed promised that this day, and this ride, would be remembered forever, a testament to courage, trust, and the remarkable strength of a young Apache woman who dared to ask the unbelievable. The journey began in earnest as the horse carried Naomi, and the traveler steadily through the desert. The sun was still strong, though it was moving lower in the sky, turning the landscape into shades of gold and orange. The wind rustled softly through the sparse bushes and scattered trees, creating a rhythm that seemed to guide their ride. Naeli held the reins confidently, her posture relaxed yet alert, and the man, whose name was Thomas, tried to match her pace, his eyes scanning the land for any signs of danger. He was beginning to understand that traveling with Naeli was not just about reaching a destination. It was about learning how to move safely through the land itself. Thomas could not help but notice how familiar Naeli seemed with every step, every detail of the environment. She knew which stones were safe to step on, which patches of sand might hide sudden dips or holes, and how to anticipate the behavior of their horse over uneven ground. When a sudden gust of wind blew, she adjusted the reins and leaned slightly to keep the horse steady. Thomas marveled at her instincts, realizing that what looked like simple movements were actually the result of years of experience, careful observation, and deep connection to the land. She had grown up in this place. She belonged to it in a way he never could. As they traveled, Naeli spoke occasionally, her voice calm and even. She told Thomas about the plants they passed, pointing out small green shoots that could be used for medicine or food. These herbs, she explained, can heal minor cuts and ease pain. That one over there is bitter, but its leaves make a strong tea that helps when someone feels weak. Thomas listened carefully, fascinated by her knowledge. He realized that surviving in this land required more than courage. It required understanding, observation, and respect for the natural world. Naeli's ability to read the landscape was not just skill, it was wisdom. The conversation soon shifted to her people and her life as an Apache woman. She spoke of her village, nestled between the mountains and the river, where families had lived for generations. She described the daily routines, the songs and stories passed down from elders, and the sense of community that bound everyone together. Thomas asked questions, genuinely curious, and she answered with patience, never assuming he already understood. Her stories revealed a life both simple and complex, one where every action had meaning and every choice carried responsibility. Thomas felt honored to hear her speak, realizing that he was witnessing a world few outsiders ever saw firsthand. As the sun climbed higher, the trail became more challenging. They encountered a rocky path, sharp and uneven, that required careful navigation. The horse stumbled slightly, and Thomas instinctively tightened his grip on the reins. Naeli, however, remained calm. "Relax," she said softly. "Trust him and trust yourself. He can feel your confidence. If you panic, he will sense it." Following her advice, Thomas adjusted his posture and let the horse move with steadiness. The rocky path tested their balance and coordination, but under Naeli's guidance, they navigated it safely. It was a small moment, but it strengthened Thomas's trust in her and in himself. Hours into the journey, the sun began to feel oppressive. The desert heat pressed down on them and sweat ran freely. Thomas wiped his brow and sighed, exhausted. Naeli noticed but did not slow down. She understood the urgency of their journey. She explained that time was important because they were heading toward areas where danger could appear without warning. Wild animals, sudden shifts in weather, or even strangers whose intentions might not be good. Her sense of responsibility was clear, and Thomas began to realize that this was not just an adventure for her. It was a serious mission, and every step mattered. The landscape began to change as they moved further from the river. The flat desert gave way to rolling hills and small clusters of trees. The occasional cliff edge reminded them that the land could be both beautiful and treacherous. Naeli guided the horse carefully, pointing out small paths that led to safe passageways and warning of loose rocks or hidden holes. "This path looks easier," she said, "but the sand hides sharp stones. Trust the smaller trail, it's longer but safer." Thomas learned to appreciate her knowledge more with every decision. It was clear that her life in the desert had taught her lessons that no book or guide could ever provide. At one point, they reached a shallow stream that cut across their path. Water sparkled in the sunlight, a rare and refreshing sight in the arid land. The horse hesitated, sensing the unfamiliar terrain, but Naomi encouraged him with gentle words. "Easy, boy, step carefully. We are almost through." She led the way, moving with grace, and Thomas followed, feeling more confident with each step. The water was cool on their legs, and Thomas took a moment to appreciate the small blessing of the stream. Naomi smiled faintly, knowing that such moments reminded travelers like him to respect the desert's balance, both its harshness and its generosity. As they continued, a sense of companionship began to develop between them. Thomas had started the journey viewing Naomi as merely a guide, someone to help him reach safety. But now, he was beginning to see her as a teacher, someone whose knowledge and instincts had already changed the way he thought about the land and himself. Naomi, on her part, observed Thomas closely. She could see his determination, his willingness to learn, and his respect for the world around him. While he was an outsider, she realized he was capable of listening, adapting, and following guidance, qualities that earned her trust. Suddenly, movement in the brush caught their attention. A small rattlesnake lay coiled, its rattle vibrating slightly, warning of danger. Naomi reacted instantly. She guided Thomas to shift slightly to the left, away from the snake's path. "Stay calm," she whispered. "Do not panic. Watch its movements." Thomas froze, feeling the tension in the air, but followed her instructions. The snake slithered harmlessly past them, disappearing into the underbrush. Thomas exhaled slowly, realizing how quickly danger could appear in the desert, and how important it was to have someone like Naomi leading the way. That single moment highlighted her courage, her awareness, and her ability to stay calm under pressure, lessons Thomas would carry with him long after this journey. The sun continued its slow descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink, orange, and purple. Shadows lengthened across the land, and the air began to cool slightly. Naomi suggested they find a safe place to rest briefly before continuing. They reached a small plateau overlooking a canyon, a perfect spot to pause and let the horse drink from a nearby stream. Thomas dismounted, feeling the relief of stretching his legs and breathing in the fresh air. Naomi remained on the horse, scanning the area, ensuring no danger approached. Even in moments of rest, her vigilance never wavered. As they rested, Naomi spoke quietly about the importance of patience, observation, and respect for the land. "This desert teaches you lessons if you are willing to listen," she said. "It teaches humility, caution, and courage. You cannot force it to move faster or slower. You can only move with it and respect its rhythms." Thomas listened intently, realizing that these lessons applied not only to the desert but to life itself. Every choice, every step, and every decision required awareness and care. Naomi's words were not just advice for the journey, they were guidance for living in a world that could be both beautiful and unforgiving. The light faded further, and the first stars began to appear in the vast sky. Naomi encouraged Thomas to mount the horse again. They had traveled far, but the journey was far from over. Riding together under the emerging night sky, they shared a quiet understanding. Words were not always necessary. The bond they had formed through trust, shared experience, and mutual respect spoke volumes. Thomas now knew that Naomi's request to ride on his horse, which had seemed so bold and unusual at first, had been the right decision. It was the beginning of a partnership that would carry them safely through the challenges ahead, while also teaching lessons neither of them could have anticipated. The desert night enveloped them, cool and quiet, yet alive with unseen movement. The moon rose slowly, casting silver light on the trails ahead. Naomi guided the horse carefully, every step deliberate, while Thomas followed her lead, trusting her implicitly. Together, they moved through the land, facing its dangers and appreciating its beauty. The day that had begun with an unbelievable request had grown into an unforgettable journey, one that tested courage, built trust, and created a bond between two strangers brought together by fate and the vast, untamed desert. By the time they found a safe spot to set up a small camp for the night, Thomas felt a deep sense of respect for Naeli. He realized that her courage had not only guided him physically, but had also taught him something far greater: how to see the world with awareness, humility, and gratitude. Naeli, in turn, had fulfilled her purpose for the day, proving that trust and determination could overcome even the most unusual challenges. Together, they had taken the first steps of a journey that neither of them would ever forget, a journey that was just beginning, with the desert as their silent, wise companion. The morning air was crisp and refreshing as Naeli and Thomas woke to the faint light of dawn. The desert had a quiet beauty at this hour, soft and gentle compared to the harsh brightness of the midday sun. The small camp they had set up the night before was tidy and undisturbed, the horse resting nearby, its mane catching the first rays of sunlight. Naeli stirred first, stretching and checking the surroundings carefully. Even in the calm of morning, her senses were alert, tuned to every movement, sound, and scent. The desert could change quickly, and she had learned that caution was never wasted. Thomas followed her lead, slowly packing their small supplies. He had grown more comfortable with the land and with Naeli's presence, yet he still felt a quiet tension in his chest. The journey had already tested him in ways he had not anticipated, challenging his endurance, his observation, and his patience. But more than anything, it had forced him to trust someone completely. Naeli had not only guided him physically, but had also taught him to see the world differently, to notice small signs in the environment, and to respect the subtle language of the land. He realized he had underestimated the desert, thinking of it as barren and simple, but Naeli had shown him it was alive with lessons and stories waiting to be understood. Once the horse was saddled and they were ready to move, Naeli set a steady pace. The path ahead was less familiar than the terrain they had already crossed, and the land seemed to rise gradually, hills appearing in the distance like silent challenges waiting for them. Thomas kept close, carefully observing how Naeli guided the horse through rocks, sand, and scattered bushes. "Follow the trail to the left," she said softly. "It's longer, but the slope is gentle. You will tire less if you take this route." Thomas nodded, trusting her instructions. Every choice she made reflected her intimate knowledge of the land, and he had learned that following her guidance meant safety, speed, and clarity. As they climbed higher, the terrain became more challenging. The hills were dotted with jagged rocks, and loose stones made footing uncertain. The horse moved cautiously, guided by Naeli's firm yet gentle hands. Thomas noticed her calm demeanor even as the trail twisted and narrowed dangerously close to steep edges. His own heartbeat quickened with each step, but Naeli's steady presence was grounding. She occasionally spoke words of reassurance to the horse, her voice confident and gentle. "Easy now," she would say. "We are doing well. Just a little more, stay steady." Her tone conveyed both authority and care, and Thomas realized that the horse respected her completely, just as he now did. Halfway up the slope, the journey took an unexpected turn. A sudden gust of wind swept across the hills, strong enough to stir loose dust and small rocks. The horse shivered, startled, and Thomas instinctively leaned forward, gripping the reins tightly. Naeli's hand was steady on his, guiding him with quiet confidence. "Do not fight him," she said. "Let him move with the wind, not against it. You must match his rhythm, not impose yours." Thomas did as she instructed, relaxing slightly, and the horse regained its balance, moving forward with cautious strength. It was a lesson in trust and adaptability, one that Thomas felt deeply, not only toward the horse but also toward Naeli, who had anticipated every challenge before it arrived. As they continued, Naeli began to share more about her people's beliefs regarding the land. She spoke of spirits that were said to dwell in the mountains and rivers, not as literal ghosts, but as representations of the land's energy and wisdom. These stories are not just myths, she explained. They teach respect and awareness. They remind us to move carefully, to honor the balance of nature. When we ignore them, trouble can find us quickly. Thomas listened intently, realizing that these teachings were more practical than he had expected. They had guided her through dangers for years, helping her predict obstacles, avoid harm, and act with caution when others might panic. Suddenly, the air was filled with a sharp, rattling sound. Thomas's heart jumped. He had heard of rattlesnakes but had never seen one so close. Naomi reacted instantly, shifting her body slightly to guide the horse away from the brush. "Stay calm," she whispered. "Do not make sudden movements." She carefully steered the horse around the snake's path, her hands gentle yet decisive. Thomas followed her instructions, amazed at her calm precision. The snake slid into the underbrush, harmless, and Thomas exhaled, feeling both relief and admiration. Naomi smiled faintly, though her eyes remained watchful. Every moment in this land demanded focus, and she was ready for whatever might come next. After the encounter, they paused briefly at a small outcrop, a safe place where the horse could rest and graze. Naomi looked over the horizon, scanning the landscape for any potential hazards. "The terrain ahead is tricky," she said. "There are hidden dips and loose rocks. We must move slowly and carefully." Thomas understood that this was more than just physical guidance. It was a lesson in patience, observation, and strategic thinking. Every step had to be deliberate, every choice thoughtful. The desert demanded respect, and Naomi had mastered the art of reading it. As the day progressed, the landscape continued to shift. The hills gradually gave way to a plateau with sparse vegetation. The horse moved steadily, and Naomi guided them through narrow paths bordered by sudden drops. Thomas's confidence was growing, yet he also understood the limits of his knowledge. Naomi's presence had taught him humility, showing him that courage alone was not enough. One needed experience, observation, and respect for the environment to navigate challenges safely. During a brief stop, Naomi shared a story from her childhood. She had once been tasked with delivering a message across the hills for her grandmother, a journey that seemed impossible at first. Through careful observation, calm decisions, and trust in herself, she had completed the task successfully. "That day taught me that fear is natural," she said, "but trust and focus can overcome it. And sometimes, you must rely on others to help you reach your goal." Thomas realized that her current guidance was not just about reaching a destination. It was about teaching him lessons that could help him navigate more than just the physical landscape. As they continued, a small dust storm appeared in the distance, swirling across the hills and moving toward them. Naomi assessed it quickly, calculating its speed and direction. "We need to take cover," she instructed. She guided the horse toward a shallow canyon, hidden from the wind and sand. Thomas followed closely, grateful for her foresight. The storm passed with only minor discomfort, but Thomas understood the importance of vigilance and preparation. Naomi's ability to anticipate danger was remarkable, and he began to trust her judgment completely, knowing that her experience had prepared her for every challenge the land could present. By late afternoon, the sun began to soften, casting long shadows across the plateau. The horse was tired but steady, and Naomi suggested finding another safe resting place for the night. They reached a small area with natural shelter, a place protected from wind and open enough for the horse to move freely. As they settled down, Thomas reflected on the day's events. He had seen Naomi's courage, skill, and wisdom firsthand. Her ability to handle unexpected dangers, anticipate obstacles, and maintain calm under pressure had earned his deepest respect. The quiet moments of the evening were filled with soft conversation. Naomi spoke of her hopes and fears, of the lessons she had learned from her family and ancestors. Thomas shared fragments of his own life, feeling more open than he had with anyone else in a long time. Despite their differences in culture and experience, a bond was forming, a bond rooted in mutual respect, trust, and shared challenges. They both understood that this journey was shaping them in ways they had not anticipated, teaching lessons that went far beyond physical survival. As night fell, the stars appeared in a brilliant display, lighting the desert sky like scattered diamonds. Naomi guided the horse to a safe spot nearby, speaking softly to calm it for the night. Thomas watched, realizing how much he had grown in just a day. He had learned patience, observation, and the value of listening to someone who truly understood the land. Naomi's courage, wisdom, and calm demeanor had not only ensured their safety, but had also taught him lessons about life, trust, and understanding perspectives far different from his own. The day had been long, challenging, and full of small victories. Naomi's guidance had transformed a dangerous journey into an experience of learning, respect, and courage. Thomas understood that the journey was far from over, yet he no longer feared the unknown. He had learned that with careful observation, patience, and trust in someone experienced, even the most difficult challenges could be overcome. Naomi had not only guided him across the desert, but had also opened his eyes to the depth of knowledge, courage, and wisdom that lived within her, and within the land itself. The morning broke slowly, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and gold. Naomi and Thomas rose with the first light, refreshed from a night spent under the stars. The desert had a quiet beauty in the early hours, calm and serene, yet alive with subtle movements. A lizard darting across the sand, a hawk gliding high above the distant cliffs. Naomi moved first, checking the surroundings for any sign of danger, her senses finely attuned to the environment. Even in the calm of morning, she was alert, aware that the desert could shift in an instant. Thomas watched her quietly, admiring how naturally she moved, as if the land itself were a part of her being. After a simple breakfast of dried fruits and a small amount of water, they mounted the horse and continued their journey. Today's path was more challenging than the previous days. The hills grew steeper, and the terrain became rugged, dotted with jagged rocks and narrow trails. Naomi's guidance was precise and deliberate, showing Thomas that every movement mattered. "Watch where you place your feet," she instructed. "Even a small mistake can make the horse lose balance." Thomas followed her instructions carefully, realizing how much he had learned from her already. He could feel his confidence growing, but he also understood the importance of humility. There was still much to observe and learn. As they climbed higher, the desert's beauty became even more pronounced. From their vantage point, they could see the river winding through the valley below, its surface glimmering in the sunlight. The distant mountains rose like silent guardians, their peaks dusted with the faint remnants of snow from the last winter. Naomi pointed out features of the land that Thomas had overlooked, the shape of the rocks that indicated a hidden path, the way the wind moved through the canyons, the subtle signs of animals that had passed before them. Each detail was a lesson in observation, patience, and understanding the natural world. During a brief pause, Naomi spoke about her people and their connection to the land. "The land teaches us," she said softly, her voice carrying over the quiet desert. "It teaches respect, patience, and courage. Every rock, every tree, every river has a story. We must learn to listen." Thomas listened intently, realizing that this journey was more than a physical challenge. It was a lesson in perspective. He had come seeking guidance to reach a destination, but what he was gaining was far greater: insight into a way of life deeply connected to nature, community, and purpose. As they continued, the path narrowed sharply along the edge of a steep cliff. The horse moved cautiously, feeling the uneven ground beneath its hooves. Thomas felt a twinge of fear, his heart beating faster, but Naomi remained calm. "Trust him," she said, her hand steady on the reins, "and trust yourself. He will follow your lead if you stay confident." Following her advice, Thomas adjusted his posture and relaxed slightly. The horse moved steadily, guided by Naomi's skill and his own newfound confidence. The moment was tense, yet it strengthened the bond between them, a silent acknowledgement of mutual trust and shared purpose. As the day wore on, they encountered other travelers, a group of traders heading in the opposite direction. Naomi greeted them with a respectful nod, and the traders responded with curiosity, noticing her presence on the horse. Thomas realized that her ability to interact with strangers, while maintaining awareness and caution, was another aspect of her remarkable skill. Naomi explained that trust was earned through respect, not assumed. Her confidence inspired not only Thomas but also those around her, creating connections that were subtle yet powerful. The journey grew more physically demanding as they approached a series of rocky ridges. The horse moved carefully, testing each step on the uneven surface. Naomi guided Thomas in adjusting his weight and using his legs to maintain balance. "Move with him," she instructed. "Do not resist the movement. Work together, not against him." Thomas followed her lead, and the horse responded smoothly, navigating the ridges safely. Each obstacle reinforced the lessons of the previous days: observation, patience, trust, and the importance of working with the natural flow of the land. Mid-afternoon brought a new challenge. A sudden rainstorm swept across the desert, dark clouds rolling in with surprising speed. The wind picked up and raindrops began to fall, first lightly, then more heavily. Naomi assessed the situation quickly. "We must find shelter," she said firmly. She guided the horse to a nearby alcove, a natural formation in the rock that would protect them from the storm. Thomas followed her without question, realizing that her knowledge of the land extended beyond guiding the horse. It was a deep understanding of safety, timing, and survival. The rain poured around them, but inside the alcove, they were dry and secure. Naomi tended to the horse, ensuring it was calm and protected. As the storm passed, a rainbow arched across the sky, casting brilliant colors over the rugged landscape. Naomi smiled, appreciating the moment of beauty. Thomas felt a sense of awe, realizing how the desert, harsh and challenging as it could be, also offered moments of wonder. Naomi spoke softly about the importance of noticing such moments, of finding balance between caution and appreciation. "Even in difficulty there is beauty," she said. "Even in danger there is learning. Life is full of lessons if you are willing to see them." Thomas nodded, understanding that this journey was shaping not only his understanding of the land, but also his understanding of life itself. The late afternoon brought them to a narrow canyon, where the sun cast long shadows and the air grew cooler. The trail twisted and turned, sometimes disappearing under overhanging rocks. Naomi guided the horse with precision, moving slowly to ensure safety. Thomas followed closely, trusting her instincts completely. They encountered signs of wildlife, tracks of deer and small predators, which Naomi explained indicated both opportunity and caution. "These animals are careful," she said. "We must be careful too. Their paths teach us how to move without disturbing the balance of the land." Thomas realized that every moment in this journey was a lesson in awareness and respect. As evening approached, they reached a plateau with a small, hidden spring. Naomi led the horse to drink while she checked the surroundings. The area was safe, sheltered, and provided a perfect place to rest before continuing. Thomas marveled at her ability to find such hidden resources, understanding that survival in the desert required not only courage, but also knowledge, creativity, and careful observation. They rested briefly, eating a small meal and sharing quiet conversation. Naomi spoke of her dreams and hopes, of her responsibilities to her family and community, and of the pride she felt in her heritage. Thomas shared stories of his own life, feeling a sense of connection that transcended differences in culture and background. The sky darkened and the first stars appeared, shining brightly in the clear desert night. Naeli guided the horse to a safe spot nearby, speaking softly to calm it for the night. Thomas reflected on the day's events. He had seen her courage, wisdom, and skill in action, navigating challenges that he would never have imagined possible. He realized that Naeli's bold request to ride on his horse, which had seemed unusual at first, was not only practical, it had created a partnership built on trust, respect, and mutual reliance. Before settling for the night, Naeli spoke quietly, almost to herself. "The land tests us," she said. "It teaches us patience, courage, and respect. It will reward those who listen and guide those who pay attention." Thomas listened, feeling the truth in her words. This journey was more than a physical passage through the desert. It was a lesson in understanding, connection, and the importance of harmony with the world around them. The trust and respect they had developed over the past days had turned strangers into companions, travelers into learners, and a simple ride into a profound experience. As they rested under the stars, the desert night seemed alive with possibilities. The soft sounds of nocturnal creatures echoed through the canyon, the wind whispered through the rocks, and the horse shifted gently in its rest. Thomas realized that he was no longer the uncertain traveler he had been at the start of this journey. He had learned to observe, to trust, and to move with awareness. Naeli had not only guided him across the land, but had also opened his eyes to lessons that went far beyond the desert itself. Her courage, wisdom, and insight had created a turning point in their journey, a moment when travel became transformation and guidance became friendship. By the time they finally prepared to rest fully, Thomas felt a deep sense of gratitude. Naeli had shown him that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act with knowledge, trust, and respect. She had taught him that the land was not merely a backdrop for human activity, but a living, breathing teacher with lessons in every stone, every plant, and every movement of the wind. The day's challenges, from treacherous cliffs to sudden storms, had become opportunities to grow, and Thomas understood that the bond between them, forged through shared experience, was stronger than words could describe. As the night settled over the desert, a quiet peace enveloped them. Naeli, ever vigilant, kept watch over the horse, while Thomas reflected on the lessons of the day. He realized that the journey, though far from over, had already changed him profoundly. Naeli's bold request, her fearless guidance, and her unwavering confidence had created a story that would remain with him forever. A story of trust, courage, and the remarkable strength of a young Apache woman whose knowledge of the land and respect for life had transformed an ordinary ride into an unforgettable journey. The sun had just begun its climb in the early morning sky when Naeli and Thomas prepared for the final leg of their journey. The desert had shifted overnight, leaving a cool, crisp air that carried the scent of distant sage and warm earth. The horse stretched and shook its mane, ready for the day ahead, and Naeli moved with quiet confidence, scanning the horizon for any signs of danger. Thomas felt a mix of excitement and relief. The journey had been long and challenging, testing both his physical endurance and his ability to trust someone he had only recently met. Yet he also felt a deep sense of admiration for Naeli, whose courage, knowledge, and unwavering calm had carried them safely through every obstacle so far. As they mounted the horse and began moving through the rolling hills, Naeli shared more of her insights about the land and her people. She spoke of the importance of community, of family, and of passing knowledge from one generation to the next. "Our ancestors taught us to respect the land because it provides everything we need to live," she said. "We learn from it and we protect it. Every step we take carries responsibility." Thomas listened closely, understanding that these lessons extended far beyond survival. They were about living with awareness, compassion, and purpose. Her words had already shaped the way he viewed the land, and now he saw their broader meaning in life itself. The terrain became more rugged as they approached a narrow canyon that would lead them toward Naeli's village. The horse moved carefully, guided by her steady hands and confident voice. Thomas followed her instructions, adjusting his balance and movement with each step. The canyon walls rose steeply on either side, creating a quiet, almost sacred atmosphere. The echoes of distant birds and the gentle rustle of the wind made the journey feel intimate and alive. Thomas realized that this was not just a physical passage, it was a journey of learning, trust, and connection. Every moment carried lessons, and every step reflected the partnership that had grown between them. Suddenly, a small group of travelers appeared ahead, moving slowly along the trail. Naeli quickly assessed the situation, her eyes sharp and calculating. "We must proceed carefully," she whispered. "Not everyone we meet understands or respects the land as we do. Some travelers may be dangerous or careless." Thomas nodded, following her lead. Naeli guided the horse along a narrow ledge, keeping them hidden from view as the travelers passed. The horse moved quietly, sensing Naeli's intention, and Thomas felt a sense of awe at her skill. She had not only navigated them through physical challenges, but also through social and environmental dangers, teaching him that awareness and caution were as important as courage. As they continued, the landscape began to change. The flat desert and rugged hills gave way to greener valleys, with small trees and patches of grass signaling the approach of the village. Naeli pointed out familiar landmarks, the curve of the river, the outline of distant huts, and the way the sun reflected off the canyon walls. Thomas felt a sense of anticipation and relief, knowing that their journey was almost complete. Yet he also recognized the deeper significance of this moment. Naeli's bold request to ride on his horse, which had seemed so unusual at first, had led them through countless lessons in trust, respect, and partnership. He could see now that it had been the right decision, one that would leave a lasting impact on both of them. When they finally reached the outskirts of Naeli's village, the scene was lively and vibrant. Children played near the river, women prepared meals, and men tended to livestock. The air was filled with the sounds of laughter, conversation, and the quiet rhythm of daily life. Naeli guided the horse carefully, bringing them closer to her family's home. Thomas dismounted, feeling a sense of accomplishment and admiration. He had traveled through challenging terrain, faced unexpected dangers, and learned lessons that he would carry with him forever. Naeli's guidance had not only ensured their physical safety, but had also transformed the journey into a profound learning experience. Naeli's family greeted them warmly, surprised but grateful to see her arrive safely. She quickly shared the urgent message that had prompted her journey, warning of potential dangers in the area and offering guidance for protecting the community. Her words were met with respect and gratitude, and the villagers listened intently. Thomas watched, realizing that Naeli's courage and knowledge had far-reaching effects. She had not only trusted him and the horse to complete this journey, but she had also used that trust to protect her community. Her actions reflected a balance of bravery, wisdom, and responsibility that was truly remarkable. As the day went on, Thomas observed the interactions between Naeli and her family. He saw the deep respect they had for her, not only for the message she carried, but for the person she had become through her experiences. Naeli spoke confidently, yet with humility, demonstrating the qualities that had guided them through the journey: patience, awareness, and trust. Thomas realized that this journey had transformed him as well. He had learned to observe, to listen, and to act with both courage and thoughtfulness. He had witnessed the strength of a young woman whose knowledge of the land and people had shaped every decision she made. In the evening, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the village, Naeli and Thomas took a moment to reflect on their journey. They found a quiet spot near the river, where the water flowed gently over smooth stones. The air was calm, and the soft sounds of nature created a peaceful atmosphere. Thomas spoke first, expressing his gratitude for her guidance and trust. "I have learned so much from you," he said. "Not just about the land, but about courage, patience, and seeing the world differently. I will never forget this journey." Naomi smiled gently, acknowledging his words. "And I have learned from you as well," she replied. "Your willingness to trust, to follow, and to observe has made this journey possible. We have both grown from it." The night fell slowly, and the village settled into a quiet rhythm. Families gathered around fires, sharing stories and preparing for the night. Naomi and Thomas sat together, reflecting on the lessons learned and the challenges overcome. The horse rested nearby, its presence a reminder of the journey that had brought them here. Thomas felt a deep sense of respect and admiration for Naomi, recognizing that her courage had created not only a safe passage, but also an unforgettable story of trust, partnership, and wisdom. Before departing the next morning, Thomas helped Naomi prepare for the day, assisting with small tasks and ensuring the horse was ready for the journey back. They shared a quiet understanding, a bond formed through shared experience and mutual respect. Naomi's bold request, which had seemed unbelievable at first, had led to a journey that taught lessons neither of them could have anticipated. It was a journey of courage, trust, respect, and learning, a journey that would remain in their memories forever. As Thomas prepared to continue on his own path, he reflected on the impact Naomi had made. Her strength, knowledge, and courage had not only guided him physically through the desert, but had also transformed his perspective. He realized that trust and respect, combined with careful observation and understanding, could overcome even the most challenging obstacles. Naomi had taught him that true courage was not just facing danger, but doing so with awareness, preparation, and a willingness to learn. Before leaving, Thomas turned to Naomi. "Thank you," he said sincerely, "for everything, for trusting me, for guiding me, and for showing me a way to see the world differently." Naomi smiled, her eyes reflecting warmth and understanding. "Remember," she replied, "the land teaches all who are willing to listen. Carry these lessons with you, and you will always find your way." They exchanged a nod of mutual respect, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they had shared and the bond that had formed between them. As Thomas departed, riding carefully along the path that led away from the village, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. The journey had been more than a physical passage. It had been a journey of learning, trust, courage, and connection. Naomi's bold request had set in motion a series of events that transformed not only the day, but also their understanding of themselves and the world around them. Every challenge, every lesson, and every shared moment had left a lasting impression. Naomi watched Thomas disappear into the horizon, a gentle smile on her face. She felt pride and satisfaction in the journey they had completed. Her courage had not only ensured the safety of her village, but had also created a story of trust, partnership, and learning that would be remembered for years. The desert, which had seemed so vast and daunting at the beginning, now felt like a place of shared experience, wisdom, and growth. Naomi understood that the journey was not just about reaching a destination. It was about the lessons learned along the way and the connections made that would last a lifetime. As night fell over the village once more, Naomi reflected on the events of the past days. The journey had tested her courage, knowledge, and patience. It had challenged Thomas and transformed him in ways he had not expected. Together, they had navigated dangers, learned from the land, and built a bond of trust and respect. The story of the bold request, to ride on a stranger's horse, had become a story of bravery, partnership, and understanding. Naomi knew that this journey and the lessons it contained would remain in their memories forever, a testament to courage, trust, and the power of shared experience. In the quiet desert night, with stars glittering above, Naomi felt a sense of peace. The journey had ended, but its impact would continue. Thomas had learned lessons that would guide him for the rest of his life, and Naeli had fulfilled her mission, proving that courage, trust, and wisdom could overcome even the most unlikely challenges. The desert had tested them both, and they had risen to meet it, creating a story of unforgettable bravery, understanding, and connection.